and I was in court, and that's exactly what I said. But then the judge ordered the janitor to burgle the plaintiff anyway. I didn't even know you could do that.
Huh.
I know it was the weirdest thing. Um, Wait, we're recording now,
Hmm.
so we should just go right into this.
Yeah, we should go into it.
Yeah. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jurisfiction. My name is Nima Ashtiani.
My name is Adam Kirshner, and Jurisfiction is a conversation about whether real laws apply to fictional characters and circumstances. And today our topic is about it's related to the new Star Wars movie that's coming out. It occurred to us that there was a moment in A New Hope when Han and Chewie and Luke and Obi-Wan and the droids, C-3PO and R2-D2, they're trying to escape Mos Eisley. And Han tells Luke it's difficult to jump to hyperspace. But the thing is it really that difficult? Or is he making excuses because they just left a bar in Mos Eisley and he was piloting under the influence? Was Han piloting under the influence?
Ah, I see what you're saying. So you think a normal person just walking into their Millennium Falcon can just get right in, fly to hyperspace, and be like, that's just an everyday thing. But in this case, him and Chewie are so inebriated that trying to like navigate the controls of their own ship becomes a problem.
That could be, yeah. They might have been piloting under the influence.
I can see that. I mean, Han Solo always seemed like the drinking and reckless type, if you will.
Well, we see him drink while they're there in Mos Eisley, right? Like, we know he's drinking something. And I assume it's not, a Shirley Temple, right? He's not the Shirley Temple kind of guy.
No, no, no. He seems like a beer or a shots kind of guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of shots, who shot first?
You mean, did Greedo shoot first or did Han shoot first?
Yes.
Well, let's talk about why that matters, right? If Han shot first, it's murder, right?
It's cold-blooded at it too.
Right, but if Greedo shot first,
It's
then it's
self
in defense of himself. Yeah.
self-defense.
Sure, self-defense.
Absolutely. But the long-standing rumor is that Han shot first,
Which would make him a cold-blooded killer.
which would make him a cold-blooded killer. And somehow when they made the movie, the idea was that they redid that to make it look like Greedo shot first. But what do you think? Do you think Han's a cold-blooded killer, or is he just defending himself?
You mean regardless of what the footage may show?
Yes.
No, I don't get the impression that Han is a kill-em-all kind of guy, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. He never came across as reckless, but not murderous.
Sure, he was just sitting there in the bar, enjoying a beverage, and Greedo came up to him, cornered him, right?
Sat in his booth,
Yeah, he said, my boss wants his money.
and did he brandish the weapon?
Yeah, so I believe Greedo displayed his weapon above the table. Meanwhile, Han, shrewd guy, cool guy, awesome guy. What did we call him in the other one? Han Solo, awesome guy?
Han Solo, awesome guy.
Yeah, so Greedo is displaying his weapon above the table. Meanwhile, Han Solo, awesome guy, is hiding his blaster underneath the table.
And I just have to say, it's like Han Solo is the Fonzie of the future,
Or a long time ago,
or a long time ago.
in a galaxy far, far away.
Yes,
Yeah, he's like an intergalactic Fonzie.
right. Hey,
Yeah. So yeah, like, notwithstanding whatever the footage may show, I think that Han is a self-defense guy, not an attack guy.
I agree. I agree. The other thing of that is, even if he did shoot, apparently it doesn't matter in that bar.
Yeah, everybody's just like, gunfight, whatever.
I mean, one guy's arm was cut off by Obi-Wan Kenobi,
And the party kept going.
and everyone's just like, hand on floor. All right, let's. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, while a crime could be committed, apparently no one would care enough to call the police, or if the police were there, no one would. It doesn't seem like anyone would ever testify.
Well, that's Mos Eisley for you, right? 911 is a joke in Mos Eisley.
That's probably why all of them go there. All the smugglers and the bounty hunters.
Yeah. So Han and Chewie enjoy some beverages, and they accept the offer of Obi-Wan
Hmm.
to pay them some money or whatever. They promise some now, some later, something like that, to fly them.
Right.
So they go to the Millennium Falcon and they talk to Jabba or whatever it is they do on their way, and they escape Mos Eisley. Luke complains about how long it's taking to jump to hyperspace or something, and Han says, well, traveling through hyperspace isn't like dusting crops. If we do it wrong, we might fly through a star or whatever it is. It sounds like he's making excuses, right?
Yeah, I mean they're what, like under attack or something? They're being attacked as they get into space.
Yeah, the Empire is attacking them. It's a Star Destroyer and some TIE fighters and
Right.
flying and shooting at them.
And he's kind of like spinning the wheel and flying around, right? Now, it's funny that you mentioned that he was drinking before because you look at it, it looks like he's trying to avoid getting shot at, but they do get
Mhm.
hit a few times. So then if you look at it in the lens, or in his case beer goggles, of that they were drinking before, now it looks like he's just driving erratically. Like if there were a yellow line on the road, he's just swerving around it.
Yeah, is that evasive maneuvers or is he just drunk?
He thinks he's driving in a straight line.
Yeah, that could be. So let's assume, for the sake of conversation, that they are piloting under the influence. That Chewbacca and Han Solo are piloting under the influence. They're drunk and they're trying to fly, and that's why they can't jump to hyperspace so quickly
Right?
because they're not as think as you pilot they are or whatever.
Yes, yes.
So whose job is it to pull them over? Right? If the Empire caught them at that moment instead of like later whenever they flew to the Death Star, if they got pulled over by the Empire,
Hmm.
could the Empire do something? Could they arrest them for piloting under the influence?
So you're asking, so you're saying that that there may be a jurisdictional issue here.
Yeah, sure. Let's say that's the first question. Can would the Empire have jurisdiction to pull them over for PUI?
So I just want to be clear that this jurisdictional topic is a jurisdictional topic.
Yeah, for once, this is a jurisdictional question about jurisdiction.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. So does the Empire have authority to pull them over? Well, they are the Galactic Empire, right? And if you remember the prequels, episodes one, two, and three,
I've tried to forget them, but yeah, I mean, I generally.
well, I mean, for context of what we're talking about today, I'm going to ask you to not repress the memory, to just let it flow. But if you remember, uh, Emperor Palpatine, with the vote of the Senate, votes to disband the Senate and start the first Galactic Empire.
Okay.
So when you ask, does the Empire have jurisdiction, that's interesting because it seems like that vote vests power from all those senators' homeworlds, from wherever they are, to the Empire.
Okay, but is that for all law or just for the purposes of like harmonization of law? Like who can enforce those laws?
Uh, I guess the idea is, since there's no more Senate, everyone's acting on behalf of this one empire, right? So any participating member state is no longer a separate body, but all just kind of a subdivision of the empire. Kind of like, you have a state and a city, but you have, state laws that apply to the cities too. So I would say that maybe the senators are running their own homeworlds or whatever, but they're following through with empire law. So empire may have jurisdiction anywhere that a participating member state would be.
Yeah, but here's the difference though, right? So like using the United States as a analogy,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
The federal level can regulate matters affecting interstate commerce, right? You
Yes.
cross the border of states and engage in commerce. And you can construe that as loosely as you desire. But intrastate matters are they're retained by the state. What is it, the 10th Amendment?
Yes.
Anything that had already been under the state's jurisdiction continues to be under the state's jurisdiction.
Yes.
Something to that effect. So piloting in the proximity of a planet, right? Would that be necessarily intergalactic travel such that the Empire can regulate it? Or until they make the jump to hyperspace, would the Empire lack jurisdiction?
Well, let me ask you, are we going to put aside the fact that the Empire was looking for them for other reasons and just focus purely on the driving or piloting?
So the Empire was looking for the droids. They were not looking for
The Millennium
the
Falcon.
pilots
Right.
of the Millennium Falcon.
Well, the reason why I say that is because there may be reason to have a checkpoint to stop and sweep the vehicles for potential illegal droids.
So we know the droids are here. We have reason to believe that they're not staying here because Tatooine, right? Who would stay in Tatooine?
Right.
So we can stop all outgoing spacecraft to search them to find the droids. We have that prerogative.
Right. It's like when you see in movies and there's a crime going on in an area and they think that someone is fleeing in a car. They put checkpoints up and they kind of do a quick sweep of the cars that come by and just say, "Are you transporting anything you shouldn't be?" and whatever. People say no, and then they kind of shine a flashlight through the windows and go, "Okay, keep going."
So are you saying that the Empire could not set up a drunk stop, but they could set up a checkpoint for another purpose?
They could set up a checkpoint for the purpose of there is an ongoing crime and there is a public policy would dictate that it's necessary for them to stop the vehicles to search for those droids, to stop vehicles to search for those droids. But as far as a checkpoint goes, if we're doing this off of the United States system, I would say maybe the Empire is kind of like the FBI. They're searching for something and stopping cars, but they're not going to pull someone over for a DUI. They're going to call local cops and say, "Hey, come here and do this."
So I guess two questions that flow off of that. Well, first of all, if they lawfully stop them
Mm-hmm.
to search them for and they attempted to do so, to search them for the droids,
Right.
and they happen to observe that the pilots are piloting under the influence, could they do anything about that? And then I guess like the second question that flows from that is, regardless of what they could do as an incident to a lawful stop, who should ordinarily police piloting under the influence?
So it all depends on the structure. If we go back to your analogy to it being like the United States, the states themselves manage their own roads.
So in this case, the planets would then manage their orbiting space.
That's actually a good question. I don't know if it's like a planet or like a specific system. Like I would say the senators that were in the Senate, I assume are from their own individual planets, but I mean, I would say it's a regional thing or a planetary thing. I don't know how it works specifically, but let's go with planets, I guess, right? I would say that you would have Tatooine police. Well, I guess they don't. But some police in the Tatooine area that their specific job is to monitor the space roads.
Well, we saw them in Empire and around Cloud City, right? Cloud City had those guys who like intercepted,
Oh, okay, yeah.
whenever they were flying nearby. So they would have somebody like that, a civil air patrol or something.
Yeah, but that's a little different, but because that was in Cloud City, not outside of Cloud City, right? Like they weren't in space, they were on the planet or around the planet.
Well, Cloud City it's a floating city.
It is right. But I guess what I'm asking you is, does it make a difference if they get in the Millennium Falcon and are speeding or drunk driving there within the confines of the atmosphere of the planet, as opposed to then they break the atmosphere and go out into space, and now they're X number of parsecs, and I think I'm using that correctly, right?
Distance, yeah.
Yes, they're X number of parsecs around or about the planet they were just on.
So if they break orbit,
If they break orbit,
you are now in galactic jurisdiction.
I guess that would be the question to establish: is how far does a planet's jurisdiction go? Is it just the planet and its atmosphere and orbit, or does it have some space outside of that too?
Yeah, so by analogy, states that have a water border right on an ocean
Mm-hmm.
a certain number of distance, and there's like three general zones, but a certain number of distance offshore, you have different levels of like exclusive jurisdiction whenever it's closest to your shore, and then you can govern certain things whenever it's a further distance. You can intercept, ships within a certain distance.
Uh-huh.
But once you reach a certain distance from your farthest outreaching shoreline, it's international water, right? And that would be, I guess, by analogy, the like the outer space would be the galactic. It would no longer be the planetary jurisdiction. It would be a galactic jurisdiction.
Okay.
So I don't know quite how many parsecs, if we want to measure them in parsecs, it would be before you would get outside of like the exclusive mining rights of a given planet.
Which I just want to make one tangent point is I know how much it irks you to know that there's a statement made that he can do the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs.
Well, but there's a rational reason why he could say that, right? If he is in fact referring to how much distance he has to travel to complete it, right? If the Kessel Run is like the idea of traveling from one point to another point,
Mm-hmm.
and he takes a shortcut, right? Like say he goes through a nebula that people typically circumnavigate.
Right.
Well, that would explain why he is traversing it in what he is bragging to be a small number of distance,
Okay. Okay.
as opposed to a small number of time, right? It's not like he's doing it faster, he's doing it shorter.
I do think that is the confusion that people get is that they make it seem like parsec is a measure of time and not distance.
Right, it's not like he's like speeding faster than everybody else. He found a shortcut, or he's risky enough to go a way that other people avoid.
Right. All right. So now that we've solved another issue, we should go back to the issue that we were talking about, I guess, and that was um, jurisdictional issues over drunk piloting.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess we generally have an idea of who ordinarily would police this, right? It would generally be the planet if you are within a certain distance, and it's up to them to, like as a galaxy,
Well,
as an empire, to figure out who has the rights.
in The Empire Strikes Back is when he was on Cloud City, right?
They go to Cloud City, yeah, in Empire Strikes Back.
And they had police in Cloud City or some sort of security force in Cloud City. Was Cloud City part of the Empire?
As opposed to like an unincorporated city outside of the Empire?
Yes. Right. So do you say, if you're in Cloud City, are you straight out the Empire or are you straight out of Cloud City?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the geopolitical nature of Cloud City is. Yeah, so they showed up. The Empire showed up.
But it seems like the Empire showed up and they made a deal, right? But like if Cloud City is, let's say it's whatever planet it is, did they have Senate representation when the Senate still existed? And therefore, when it became the Galactic Empire, they were subsumed into the Empire.
Maybe Cloud City is like Switzerland. Maybe they're neutral.
So not part of the Empire, not part of the rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I can think of is, though, they did not have a representative in the Galactic Senate
Sure.
when the vote was made because they did seem neutral.
Right, so the Empire shows up in Switzerland, floating in the clouds.
Right.
The Alps, right? Like it's Cloud City's actually on the Alps, and it looks like it's in the clouds because it's like so high. So they show up and they're like, "Hey, we're the Empire. We want to, encase this guy, Han Solo, awesome guy. Sometimes he, pilots under the influence. We want to encase him in carbonite."
And if Lando and Cloud City assist them, which they did,
Yeah, Lando, typical Swiss name.
Calrissian, I believe so.
Yeah, Calrissian, yeah.
That, yep. I think that should be edited out. My faux pas. Okay, so so if Lando and Cloud City assist the Empire, that also doesn't necessarily make them part of the Empire. That just means that's like a joint venture, right? It's just, hey, we both want to get this one task done. Let's join together for this one thing.
I don't know how much Lando wanted to get that task done, right? To capture Han Solo. Awesome guy.
Han Solo asked him, guy, yeah. Well, true, but he did agree, right? There was some sort of meeting of the minds between, I guess, Darth Vader or Darth Vader's people and Lando. But the point I raise is that even though there may have been some assistance from them to the Empire, that doesn't make them part of the Empire. So I would say if Han was drunk piloting throughout Cloud City,
Which, let's be honest, he probably was.
he probably was. Lando could arrest him. Lando's police could arrest him.
Hmm.
But Darth Vader could not send out Empire police to pull them over and submit them to breathalyzers.
Because he was within the Cloud City limits, if he was within those limits.
Right.
Okay, but so he breaks orbit, like whenever he's leaving Tatooine, Mos Eisley on
Right.
Tatooine.
Right.
He's outside of the orbit. Let's just say he's outside of whatever exclusive jurisdictional rights Tatooine would have.
Mm-hmm.
And the Empire pulls the Millennium Falcon over as an incident to a lawful stop, right? Hey, look, we're looking for these droids. They're working for the rebellion.
Right.
Could the Empire enforce whomever's PUI laws on behalf of the planet or wherever those laws originate?
That's a tough question. I would say the answer is they could stop them, and
Well, they already did, right? We're looking for the droids.
sure.
Yeah.
But let's say so for the drunk driving, the drunk piloting issue, I would say the Empire would call local police, local whomever, and say, hey, we stopped these guys for this issue, but this guy reeks of booze. You should come out here and administer a breathalyzer while we have him. Or give him a space sobriety test.
So, say they cannot. Say they're in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
They're not reasonably close enough to a planetary body to, extradite the prisoners.
Okay.
What do they do with them? So say the droids are not on there, right? They were looking for the droids, they didn't find them. These aren't the droids they're looking for. But they are drunk, right? Can you just let them go and just fly away drunk? Or can you hold them until they sober up? Can you charge them with anything? Like, what do you do with these drunk pilots?
Well,
What do we do with a drunken pilot early in the morning? Or whenever they're drunken pilots? Right, it's always early in the morning in space, right? Like, it's like kind of light, but not that light. Like, it's always early in the morning.
there's always some star shining.
Yeah.
For public welfare purposes, I think they got to take them. You can't let them fly through the Empire, right? I mean, so we don't really have a similar situation like that in the United States where we have like gaps in states. But if we had a gap in a state and the feds were hanging out in one of those gaps and pulled you over, I would say that, well, probably they take you back to where you drove through, right? So if you're driving from, I don't know, New Jersey to Connecticut and there's a gap.
New York. New York doesn't exist anymore.
New York doesn't exist anymore, right?
There's a New York shaped gap.
I would say that if they could show that, your car is pointing in direction of Connecticut,
Mhm.
they'd say, where'd you come from? New Jersey. Well, looks like they're coming from the direction of New Jersey. All right. Take them back to Jersey, breathalyze them here, give them field sobriety test and do whatever they need to do. Follow New Jersey law and take them back to Jersey. Because if they're drunk now, they must have been drunk in Jersey.
Yeah, but so they're busy. The Empire, it takes a lot of work to run a cutthroat galactic empire, right? I don't know from personal experience, but I've seen it in the movies, right? It takes a lot of work. They're too busy to, take back every drunk pilot. Otherwise, that would be like that could be like the mechanism of the rebellion, right? Just everybody fly around drunk, and we'll burden their resources, and they won't be able to, destroy planets because they're too busy pulling over drunken pilots.
But the Empire does have an interest in this because they don't want people flying through their member states, member galaxies from one place to another drunk. And if they're the
Or
ones
just them, or just themselves, right? Say I'm flying around in my Star Destroyer, right? I don't want some drunken pilot crashing into me.
right. And that's exactly the point, right? The whole point is that they have an interest in making sure that that this drunk person isn't affecting or endangering their members, with their citizens or themselves or any other people as part of that empire.
Mhm.
So that's a tough call. In and of themselves, I would say you're right. It's a waste of their time and outside their jurisdiction, provided that that's how their jurisdiction falls, is kind of like the U.S. system. But I would say that you get them, you kind of run whatever tests you need to. Maybe you call up the local galaxy or the planet and say, "Hey, we got these guys. They're kind of drunk. What do you do when you got drunk people? How do you tell?" They say, "Oh, well, we breathalyze them. Do you have one of those on your ship?" Yeah, no. Oh, we can also do a field sobriety test, and we'll send someone out that way to assist you. So maybe they just call for help and send someone out, and then they just have to wait there a minute instead of bringing them back and doing all the paperwork. They just say, "Here's my statement. I caught them," and whatever else.
Well, look, I want to watch that movie, right? Like whoever does Kickstarter, you can go ahead and take this and run with it because I want to see it, right? I don't want to do it. I want to see it. I want to see the movie where the rebellion gets the idea that they can do this like peaceful, nonviolent resistance by just piloting under the influence all over the place and forcing the Empire to capture all these drunken pilots, and then they can't blow up the planets anymore. That'll be a different plot for a change for one of these Star Wars movies, right? Instead of it being the same movie over and over again, where somebody builds a big gun and they shoot planets, right?
Right.
Because they've done that at least 3 times now.
Yep.
Have that movie, right? Bunch of drunken pilots, and the Empire is too busy pulling them over.
So when the Emperor or Snoke comes out and says, "Why isn't my giant explodey thing built?"
It's because all the drunken pilots, boss. Sorry, we got to keep pulling everybody over. It's so many drunken pilots in the galaxy.
We don't have enough men. They're too busy. They're too busy doing field sobriety checks.
Right.
Yeah, no, that checks out.
That's a rebellion.
That's, I mean, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say drunk piloting probably not as dangerous as drunk driving.
Well, I mean, because there's so much space,
There's a
right?
lot of space, right? And I mean, I don't. You never see lines in space, right? Like, no one says like drive in this lane. Although, I always did wonder, space is so vast, and yet people find each other so easily.
Well, that's because it's fiction.
Well, yeah. I mean, but Star Wars, Star Trek, they're like, we're looking for this ship, and then they just fly out, and boop, there it is. They just go in a straight line. Everyone flies in the same plane. Everyone is piloting in the same plane.
Hmm.
Maybe they make a couple lefts, couple rights, but it's like they pilot in space like they're driving on roads.
Yeah, it's unrealistic how little space there is in shows about space. Like,
You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna just draw a quick parallel of a question. In Star Trek, there's the United Federation of Planets,
hmm
which has member planets from many places.
hmm
Who polices their drunk drivers? Is that the same idea? Each planet is independent and has its own laws and everything like that. They just kind of sign up to be part of this group, or they're inducted into it. I'm not sure how it works, but they got their own police and everything.
Isn't there something about like synthahol in the Star Trek universe where like you can feel like you're drunk, but then like you aren't?
Right. And a lot of alcoholic beverages are illegal. Like they have Romulan ale, but
Hmm.
you can't have it, and yet somehow everybody has it.
Right.
It's like this thing is illegal and no one should have it. Well, how come you have like 500 bottles of it? Which drunkenness was actually a part of one of the Star Trek movies for a brief moment.
The first contact where they go back in time and they find the guy who's gonna like be the first big thing in.
Oh, that's a good one. I was actually going to go with Star Trek 6: The Undiscovered Country when they accused Bones of not saving the Chancellor because of old age and drinking.
So I guess a couple of Star Trek movies have been primarily about drinking, right?
Yeah, he was practicing medicine while under the influence.
From what I hear, that's about par for the course for doctors.
Yeah, that yeah. Oh, and so, but no, that was about the murder of the chancellor, but he was accused of doing this thing while drunk, and that's why he couldn't save his life. But I'm guessing that the Klingons would have. I'm guessing they don't have drinking laws because they tend to drink a lot and fight. But if they did, he would so get it.
Well, yeah, I guess the Klingon drinking law is you should.
It kind of works the opposite of everywhere else. You're not drunk? Ooh, that's going to be a problem. You may want to call your attorney. So another problem solved by jurisdiction?
Yeah, just to recap, right? Han and Chewbacca probably were piloting under the influence, and that's probably why jumping to hyperspace was so difficult for them.
Right.
If you are within an orbit of a planet or within its proximate exclusive rights, they can pull you over for piloting under the influence. If you are in outer space, assuming that the Empire can pull you over for anything else, they can hold you or transfer you to some other, authority to enforce it for piloting under the influence.
Mm-hmm.
But they can't pull you over just because you seem to be piloting under the influence, right?
I don't think they have their own.
Or did we decide they could, right? That's the movie, right?
True, yes.
Okay, yeah. And then somebody's going to start a Kickstarter and they're going to make a movie about how the Empire can pull over anybody that's piloting under the influence.
Yes, and whoever will be starting that Kickstarter, Adam and I are available.
Yeah, I can play a drunken pilot.
I'm pretty good at that.
I mean, like acting. Like I'm not actually a notorious drunk driver. I
could be a good drunken Chewbacca.
Do you want to wear the costume, or do you want to be?
I'll just grow out my beard.
Okay, yeah. So star Nima as a real life Chewbacca, and I will be. I can't be Han Solo, but I'll be some other smuggler, and we can be drunken pilots in your Kickstarter movie.
Yeah, I mean, and if not me, I think I know someone who fits that large animal-like description.
Kind of like a bear.
Kind of like a bear.
Yeah. So we know a bunch of extras for the drunken pilot movie, the passive aggressive, the peaceful resistance Kickstarter Star Wars movie.
Yeah, I'm all in. I'd love to talk to you, whoever you are that will be making this.
That's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you for listening to us solve intergalactic drunk piloting problems.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Jurisfiction. Follow us on Instagram, Jurisfiction. Follow us on Twitter, @Jurisfiction. And visit our website, www.jurisfiction.net. And as always, if you have a question about if that thing can happen, that movie or whatever else, or a topic that you'd like us to discuss somehow, just drop us a line on any of those social media platforms and give us your thoughts, and we will look into it, and hopefully it'll become a future episode.
Thanks for listening.